Hey everybody, Animal Man here. Today I'm going to talk about considerations for prepping if you live in an apartment or a condo. Stay with us. Alright, so this video is brought on by one of my very long-time subscribers to my YouTube channel named Greg. And he doesn't go by his name on there, but I believe this guy has been on board since pretty close to the beginning. He's been on board for years, and he comments regularly. So I appreciate you, Greg. Thank you so much. Greg is also one of my first Patreon patrons, so here's your shout out, brother. So this video is pretty much for you, buddy. It's aimed at you. It's also, I know one other patron lives in the city in an apartment. So this is try to help you guys out and kind of try to give you some ideas that you might not have thought of for your prepping. I know, I own a house now on like 3/4 of an acre in the suburbs, but at one point, my first apartment, which I lived in for years, wasn't a huge apartment complex. I think there were a couple of hundred apartments in there. So I have lived in an apartment. I feel your pain. I know that there are specific issues that go along with living in an apartment, especially when you're a prepper. And to be honest, like back when I had the apartment, I wasn't as into this. I was into all kinds of outdoor stuff, but I wasn't into the preparedness thing yet. That being said, I was very conscious of the fact that if we lost power, which we did quite often, that was a problem. And I had lots of animals at the time. You know, I had turtles, lizards, snakes. I had all kinds of stuff that I had to worry about keeping warm. So the issues, the main issues that I see with an apartment or a condo, obviously it's space. Also, it's close proximity to neighbors, which you don't want to know necessarily that you're prepping and that you have things. In good times now, you might not want them to know unless they're a close friend of yours. But also, obviously, if something bad did happen in an emergency and you had to use your preps, you don't want it to be obvious that you've got power, that you have resources. So that's a problem too. So a couple of thoughts. I mean, thinking about, sorry, my GPS, I'm on the way to a customer's right now. As far as like energy and warmth and lighting and keeping your devices charged so you know what's going on, and also for entertainment, my best bet is to do what I actually have in my house now, which is a battery bank. And I built my own. I have a video on the basics of how to do it. I think I have a second video on what I actually have in my house. And I've designed mine myself. I got the idea from Stephen Harris. Stephen Harris has a whole series of 1, 2, 3, 4 websites. So it'll be like Stephen Harris 1, 2, 3, 4, battery 1, 2, 3, 4, prep 1, 2, 3, 4, radio 1, 2, 3, 4, first aid 1, 2, 3, 4. Everything you can think of, he's got. And I know Stephen from listening to Jack Spirko's Survival Podcast. I'm a TSP member. I love that show. I've listened to that show for years. And Jack and Steve, man, those guys are switched on. They have given me so many amazing ideas. So just a shout out to them. That's an awesome resource for anybody. And you know, he has this way, Stephen has this way of building these battery banks, which I've adopted, and I've kind of like changed it and tweaked it to my own, for my own uses specifically. But basically, the idea is you don't need any super fancy, expensive stuff like you see in these other videos. Everything in your battery bank should be able to be bought either at like Walmart, or you know, any local hardware store, or on Amazon. That way, if something breaks, it's simple to replace it, and everything is like the same. You can mix and match them, kind of thing. You know, you don't have to like special order things and wait for it or whatever. So you can see why that would be beneficial in an emergency. If you need something, you can just walk to the closest Walmart if you need to and find it. That type of thing. So basically, you've got an inverter, which is very important. Everyone should have those anyway. I have several. You want one that's at least 500 watts. 1,000 watts would be better. And I have 3 batteries. You should look for Group 29 Deep Cycle Marine batteries, and that's what I have 3 of. They make one size larger, which is group 31, but I haven't found them at any stores around here. The group sizes are like 24, 27, 29, and 31. 29 is the biggest one that I can find. But Deep Cycle Marine, I have 3 of them. You need a smart battery charger. I'll use a Schumacher, charger. You need an inverter, which controls, you need an inverter. And then I have a bunch of other things that tell me like the charge of the battery and stuff like that. But then from there, you can decide what you want to hook up to it. You can use the inverter to just run normal 120 volt things, plug them right in. You can have USB, you can have 12 volt sockets if you want, all kinds of stuff. And just the things you can do with this are amazing. You can, if you have probably at least a 750 watt inverter, you can run your refrigerator and freezer off that. And in an emergency, I only run mine 1 hour twice a day, and that's enough to keep it cold. You don't need to run it all the time. The idea is to not have to keep on recharging the batteries constantly, to let them last a few days before you have to recharge them. Okay, you can run that. I have lots of reptiles, so I have these little black heating pad things. They're made by ZoomEd, and they're about 20 bucks. Each of them runs on 8 watts, very, very low energy. And if you get a lamp dimmer, it's like an extension cord with a little turny switch on it to dim a lamp. You hook up the heating pads to that, and then you can determine how hot you want them. Each person in your house can have their own heating pad. It's kind of like an electric blanket, but smaller. They also have heat cable, which you could safety pin to a blanket to make your own blanket. And they sell 12 volts blankets, which are a good idea too. You don't want to run a normal electric blanket that you'd have in a house that you plug in, because they use way too much power. But that's a great way to stay warm without having to burn any fuel. In an apartment, that would be a problem, right? But with this way, nobody would be the wiser that you're doing that. In the summer, you can also run fans. You're not going to run an air conditioner with this. You can run fans. You can charge all of your electronics. You can run a TV. You can run a radio to know what you're doing to know what's going on, rather. LED lights, charge your batteries, all that stuff. So that's a really good prep. Now, the way you charge this, you're not going to have solar panels in an apartment or a condo, because obviously people would see them. You can have a small one that maybe you can put in the window just to charge like your cell phone or something like that from. Like, that's okay, but not a big one. You're also not going to have a wind turbine or any stuff like that. But what I would think to do is, you've got a car there probably, right? Your car is your battery charger. So what you would do is store extra gas for your car. So get a 5-gallon gas can, fill it all the way to the top, and if you want, you can get stabilizer, put that in there, and that'll be good for a year. As long as it's filled all the way to the top and it's closed really tight, I wouldn't worry about that for a year. And then you just rotate it. You pour it in the gas tank of your car, fill it up again, and it's good for another year. Super simple. It's totally fine for 1 year, especially when it's mixed with other gasoline. It's not going to cause any problems or anything. But the stabilizer helps. Like, you can buy the Sta-Bil brand stabilizer, but there's this other stuff called, I forget what it's called. Stephen Harris has it on his website, but it's like PRG or something like that. It's stabilizer, and that's the best stuff on the market, I believe. I don't have it yet, but I've heard a lot about that stuff. So store the gas, and that way you can run your car. And my car, I've practiced with this, and I can take one of the batteries to my battery banks, and I can just unplug it from the battery bank, disconnect the cables, carry it outside to the car, hook it directly to the car with jumper cables while the car's running already, hook it up. You don't need any charger or anything, just hook it directly up to the car while the car's running, and the alternator will dump power into that battery. That's how you charge it. So you run the car just for a little while. My car, this car that I'm in right now, I've tested, and I use 1/4 gallon an hour at idle. So, you know, you can imagine that you have, you know, I don't know, I think it's got like a 15-gallon gas tank. If you're doing that once a day or once every few days to charge the batteries, all of a sudden, you know, this can go a very, very long way. So that's a really good consideration for that. Water. You can prep water, but I know water takes up a lot of space. The best ways that I have would be like somewhere where you don't use the space, there's empty space. So think of going up. You can go, underneath things, like under a bed. You can raise your bed up on risers to create more space under your bed. And you can also add, some people have like space above the kitchen cabinets, put stuff there. You can add other cabinets or storage areas on top of other things like dressers if you want. Try and think of things that would make it not an eyesore though. But you get the point. Like, try to be creative, think out of the box, and make more ways to fit water. In an emergency, I know in my apartment complex, I wanted to know where everything was. So I would walk around, and I found the rooms where they had our water heaters and the water pressure tanks. It's good to know where that stuff is too, because in an emergency, they have little check valves at the bottom, and you can drain water out. Also, if you're in an apartment complex, if you go to the lowest level, even if the water's been turned off, gravity will bring the water to the lowest level. So if your apartment's higher up, you might lose your water pressure, but the guys below you might not. So if you can find any way to access the water at the lowest level of the apartment, you still might be able to get water. Toilet tanks are another emergency way to get water. If you know an emergency is coming, I would take trash bags, like kitchen trash bags or outdoor leaf bags, and you can put those in anything. Put them in buckets. You can put them in, pull drawers out, dump them out, put the bags in the drawer, or you can put them in large pots. Whatever you have that can contain it. You can put them in a hamper, whatever. Fill those with water, tie the bag shut. That's emergency water in a pinch. So, food. Obviously, we have the space issue again. A cool thing for you that I've done is if you go to town hall in your town, and I'd say in at least every town that's touching your town, every town that's abutting your town, go to the town halls of all these, and usually they have a map of the entire town for free with all the roads and everything on it. Get those. And then in your travels, when you see resources, you mark them on the map. And you color code it. Use Sharpies, okay? So things you're looking for, and you can do this when you're driving. You can also do this on Google Earth and look at satellite photos. Look for people that have swimming pools. Look for ponds. Look for rivers, streams, lakes. Look for farmland. Look for, look for good hunting areas. Wild edible plants are a very, very important thing for you to learn now. So you can mark them on your map and know where to find them in an emergency. Another thing is you can plant wild edibles certain places. If you see a place that's really, really a good spot for X type of wild edible to grow, let's say like burdock loves disturbed soil, if you find a place like that, you can find some burdock, take the seeds, disperse them there, and disperse them there every year, and you'll have a supply that only you know what it is and where it is, basically. And you can have, it's like guerrilla gardening. You can have these things all over the place.
Turn left on Denny Street.
A few of my favorite edibles that you can find, usually if you find it, you find a lot of it in quantity. Cattails is a great one. Burdock, like I said, is a great one. Evening primrose is an awesome one. Jerusalem artichokes. Autumn olive is great. I'm trying to think of ones that'll be around all year, though. Autumn olive isn't usable all year. The other ones are. I'm trying to think. Well, Japanese knotweed is great in the spring, and that's all over the place. It's very invasive. But there's a whole lot. There's a whole lot of them, guys. You need to learn your wild edibles. So I hope this is useful. There's so many more things that I could say here, but I don't want to make this video take an hour. Please add ideas in the show notes. If you have any thoughts to what I said, please let me know. And hope you guys found this useful. Thanks again, Greg, for being a subscriber, being a patron. I appreciate you, brother.
Then turn right on Denny Street.
If you haven't yet, guys, please subscribe to Animal Man Survivor. And check out my Patreon. It's Animal Man Survivor on Patreon. Patreon.com/AnimalManSurvivor. All my videos good up there one day early from YouTube, ad-free. And I've got lots of exclusive content on there just for you guys. Thanks for watching.